The story I'm about to tell you is something that I can't stop thinking about. Have you ever discovered something so shocking that it completely altered the way you view the world? Like you've gone about your life in one way, then boom, something happens and suddenly nothing is the same anymore. And you start to question who you are and how you became this way. Well, I had no idea that one particular winter's night would turn into such a life-changing moment for me. I had been over at my friend Casey's watching movies, and I'd planned to stay over and just head back to my parents' place the next day. They're normally pretty chill about stuff like that, but for some reason, my dad called me around 8 p.m. and asked me to come home. He didn't want me driving in the dark, as there'd been some attacks in our area that were freaking everyone out. I was bummed about leaving, but come summertime, I'd be off to college, and I wouldn't need to tell anyone what time I'd be home at. Bring it on, I thought. By the time I said goodbye and gathered up my stuff, it was already getting dark. I decided to take the quick route home, as I could see my gas was dangerously low. I'm sure you can guess what happened next. I made it about 5 miles out of town when my car just slid to a halt, and of course it happened to be in the middle of nowhere. Casey's place was like 10 miles from my place, and here I was, stuck smack bang in the middle. There was no chance I was going to walk back to Casey's. I mean, I couldn't just abandon my car like that. I knew there was a gas station like 3 miles away, near my house. Maybe I could run there and back? Who was I kidding? I'd just call my dad. He'd bring some gas, and we'd be good to go. I took my phone out of my bag and could not believe it. This seriously felt like one of those cliched horror movies. Girl runs out of gas in the middle of nowhere. Girl realizes it's getting dark. Girl discovers her phone battery is completely and utterly dead. How had my car and phone gone dead in the same moment? This was bad. Oh, this was really bad. There was nothing else for it. I'd need to sleep in my car, or face up to my fears of entering a dark forest alone at night and go find someone who might be able to help. I doubted anyone lived in this wasteland of an area, but still I had to go check. As I walked through the trees, I realized exactly where I was. This was where one of the attacks had happened. It'd been in the newspaper all week, and there were even some police warning tape on some of the trees. What was I doing here? I was literally walking into a death trap. Just my luck. The next moment, it started to snow. I'd completely forgotten there was a heavy snowfall coming. Great! At this rate, my car would be buried under snow before I even got back. This was turning out to be a nightmare of a night. And I couldn't even Instagram story it all because my freaking phone was dead. Typical. I was getting ready to give up and succumb to the fact that I need to sleep in my car, when suddenly I spotted some kind of light in the distance. As I got closer, I realized it was actually a fire. Oh my gosh. As if tonight couldn't get worse. Was I about to stumble upon a fire when my car burned down? No, this couldn't be happening to me. Then I realized it was just a little bonfire, but it was freakishly close to the hut next to it. I approached with caution and plucked up every morsel of courage in my body as I knocked on the door. My heart was thumping in my chest as I heard footsteps approach. Who even lived in a place like this? It was basically a glorified shack. My dad's garden shed was bigger than this. As the door opened, I felt like running away. Standing in the doorway was this huge guy. He just stared at me. I don't know who was more shocked, me or him. I couldn't scream. I couldn't run. I just froze. His beard was so long, and it honestly looked and smelled like he hadn't had a shower in ever, actually. My hands started to go clammy, like when I get nervous, and all I could think about was how much my parents would kill me for walking into a trap like this. I might be 18, but I still know when I shouldn't be talking to strangers, and this was definitely one of those occasions. He invited me in, and I really didn't want to enter, but I didn't feel like I had a choice. What if he chased me if I ran away? So I sucked up my fear and followed him inside. You won't believe what was in there. Or rather, I should say, who was in there. Sitting around the fire, there were about 20 people, and they all looked really freaky, almost like they were in a trance or something. Firstly, I couldn't believe they had an actual fire in the middle of the room, and secondly, who were these people? I mean, they all looked kind of similar, so I guess they were related or something. Had I gate crashed a family gathering? Or were they calling in the ancestors or something? Seriously, it was so weird. The man who'd opened the door invited me to join them around the fire, and as I walked towards an empty spot in the corner, all eyes were on me. I felt so out of place. All I wanted was some gas. I turned to the man with the beard and stuttered, no, it's okay. I don't want to intrude. I just need some help with my car. You see, I ran out of gas and I really need to get home. And now my phone's dead and I stopped. The man was laughing. He didn't even care. He then said, don't worry, we'll help you. But first, come sit. Come get warm. You won't be going anywhere tonight. What did he mean I wouldn't be going anywhere tonight? I had to get home. I had no idea what the time was. But I knew my parents would be freaking out around about now. I went to check the time on my phone, and then remembered it was dead. Now what? Did this place not even have a clock? I stood up to leave, but the man with the beard stopped me, and said I needed to eat first. That's when I noticed the huge pot on the fire. How had I missed it? It was like a big cauldron. He served me up a bowl of what looked like a mystery stew, and I said thanks. There was no way I was eating this. I'd probably die of food poisoning. But as everyone else started eating and slurping in acknowledgement of how delicious it was, I decided to try it. Otherwise, they'd just think I was some rude girl. And you know what? It wasn't half bad. In fact, it was pretty incredible. And they just cooked this on an open fire? Wow. I usually just heated up my food in the microwave, other than s'mores and the occasional BBQ. We literally never used fire to cook. Maybe they were onto something here. After eating, I politely said thank you and then excused myself, but they wouldn't let me leave. They said I could leave in the morning, only once the snow stopped, otherwise I'd get sick. They even made me up a little bed in the corner by the fire, so I wouldn't get cold. They were being weirdly kind to me. I asked them where the toilet was, and said sorry, I just really had to go. The guy with the beard showed me where it was, and I was so grateful when it was an actual toilet. I guess I'd been expecting a hole in the ground outside or something. I couldn't wait to tell the girls at school about this. If I ever left this place alive, that was. I came back from the toilet, and luckily the tea was nowhere to be seen. But now everyone was singing, and as I went back to join them, I realized this was actually kind of nice. I hadn't sung with people in years. I felt like I was back at summer camp. Honestly, these people were bonkers. Get a TV, people! Although as I thought this, I also had this other feeling wash over me. I felt cozy. If they killed me in the night, at least my last meal had been a good one. Finally, everyone left and headed to bed, and I lay there thinking, could this night get any stranger? I woke up in the night and had no idea where I was. I was shivering, and the fire had gone out. I reached out for my phone out of habit, and remembered it had died, but then I decided to check anyway. To my surprise, it had turned on. It was on 4%, but I figured I could call my parents at least. I had 27 missed calls. Oh no, it was 2 a.m. and they'd probably already called the police by now, especially with all these attacks that had been going on. My mom answered after one ring, and she sounded terrible. She demanded to know where I was and why hadn't I called her. I told her I was fine, and that I was staying at a random family's house by the forest. I was whispering as I said this, because the old man was asleep on the other side of the room. I didn't want to wake him. Of course, my mom started screaming and said they were coming over right now. I panicked. My parents were furious. I tried to sneak out as quietly as possible and decided I'd just wait for them back in my car. But they were already outside before I even made it to the forest. They were driving so fast I thought they'd drive right into the house. My mom jumped out and ran towards me, and my dad was just shouting, "Tilly, you get in this car right now. You are in deep trouble, my girl." And then it got worse. I heard police sirens. My mom was hysterical, saying what was this place, and that she thought I'd been kidnapped by these bad people, and that I knew not to come to this area. I just stared at her in disbelief. She was being so judgmental. She didn't even know these people. I wanted to tell her that, but now the cops were walking toward us, and the man with the beard was standing in the doorway, looking crestfallen. "I'm sorry," I whispered, hoping that he would hear me. I was suddenly so embarrassed. My parents had made such a scene, and now the cops would probably arrest all of these people, who were actually so kind. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that their life was pretty nice. I told the cops I was fine. My car had just run out of gas, and we could go home. There were no problems, but they still went to investigate. My parents told me to get in the car, and I did, but suddenly I stopped. "Wait," I said. Then I ran back towards the house and said to the man with the beard, "Thank you so much. I'm Tilly, by the way, and honestly, I'm so grateful. You guys are, well, you're pretty cool. I'm sorry if I acted a bit freaked out at first. I just didn't know what to expect." He reached out to my hand and shook it and said, "Please come back and visit us soon. You're a good singer, Tilly. Oh, I'm Kai, by the way." I wanted to shout at my parents about the way they acted back there, But I realized that I'd acted in exactly the same way at first. I judged them because they lived a little differently from me, and I was kind of ashamed of myself. I mean, I'd even considered that they might have been the attackers. The next day, we went back to get my car, and Kai and his brothers and sons helped us dig it out of the snow. When my dad saw how kind they were, he also came to the same realization. Even Ahanu smiled and waved at me, even though I hadn't shared his tea with him. I mean, I don't think I'm about to give up my phone anytime soon, or move to the forest, but I've become good friends with Kai and his family, and I go visit at least once a week now. They are such incredible people, and I was wrong to judge them. They might live simply, but they are way happier than a lot of people living in my town. And I love that they sit around the fire and tell stories and sing together. Sometimes we can surprise ourselves if we just open our minds a bit, don't you think?
This story is something that I like to share with my friends when they're feeling down about their love life. A couple of years ago, our school was getting renovated to add a new auditorium in. Half the school was closed off, but there was one bathroom that I found located down a dark hallway that was the prime place to do a number 2. You know what I mean. It was always quiet in there, and no one ever came down that way because it was so dark. This one morning, I'd been running late for school, so I didn't get a chance to go to the bathroom at home like I usually do. I got to my first hour class and felt the rumble in my stomach. I had to go. So I asked for the hall pass and traveled down that dark, lonely hallway to get to my throne. But when I got there, I discovered that they had blocked the girls' bathroom. There was a yellow caution tape across the door. It seemed that they were now working on it, and it was under construction. I was nowhere near another girl's bathroom, and I really had to go. So my only option at this point was to head to the boys' room. I almost didn't get my pants down in time when I finally got to the stall and started my business. Thankfully, I finished quickly. You know, it goes much faster when you don't have your phone to entertain you. I was just getting my pants zipped back up when I heard 2 boys walking in the bathroom. Crap, I thought to myself. I didn't want to get caught in the bathroom, and I didn't want to leave because I didn't want them to know it was me who had just dropped a bomb in here. All I could do was wait, and hopefully they do their business and be on their way. Of course, I wasn't so lucky. I've never known boys to be gossipy, but apparently that's what these kids wanted to do today. After they both got done washing their hands, they stood at the sinks. I could see them through the crack in the door, but luckily they couldn't see me. My feet were up on the toilet, and I was trying very, very hard not to move or shake. It got even more difficult to do when I heard the first boy say, "So, do you really think Lily's hot?" My eyes grew wide and my jaw dropped. That was my name. Who the heck would think that I'm hot? I tried to get closer to the crack in the door without making any noise. "Oh, dude, yeah, definitely," said the other boy. As I peeked through the crack in the door, I could just make out the boy's light brown hair and his letterman's jacket. Other than that, I didn't have a clue who he was. "Are you going to ask her out?" the first boy asked. "No way. She doesn't seem to be into me. She's always looking away when I look at her, or she won't talk if I say hi. She's probably just shy. Ask her out." "Nah, I can't. I'm really sure she doesn't think I'm hot." Was this person talking to Tyler? The hottest guy in the school? I thought to myself, watching the boys as they finally left the bathroom. Tyler was a football player, so he definitely had a letterman's jacket, and he had soft brown curls that fell a little over his eyes. I hope it was Tyler. He does look at me sometimes, but I always get embarrassed because I feel like his piercing blue eyes are stabbing my soul. Am I being too dramatic? Probably. Anyway, I finished washing my own hands, and then I waited a couple more minutes to leave the bathroom. When I returned to my class, my teacher gave me a dirty look. I went up to her and told her that my period started, and she gave me a nod of understanding. I apologized and headed to my seat. We were supposed to be working on algebra, but I couldn't get my mind off of Tyler. What if he really had said he liked me? I'm not the most popular girl in school. I'm not super hot like the spunky cheerleaders. I'm more of an athletic type. I always figured Tyler went for girls who were super small, had bleached blonde hair. Maybe I underestimated him. When class was over, I still wasn't 100% sure it was Tyler who had been talking about me in the bathroom. So I didn't want to go up to him and just exclaim, "Kiss me," in front of everyone. Instead, I made my way over to where he was and kind of stood by to see if he would peek at me. My friend Daria came over. We talked and I told her I had a secret. I explained what happened and she couldn't believe what I said. You're telling me that you were taking a poop and found out someone majorly hot has a crush on you? I was actually done pooping, but yes, I was stuck in the bathroom and now I may have a super hot boyfriend. I don't believe this, she said as she shook her head. Wow, thanks for the vote of confidence, bestie, I thought to myself. Not that I don't think Tyler would like you, it's just that he's dating Simone. She pointed over her shoulder at Tyler, who had his arm around, you guessed it, Simone, a blonde cheerleader. Sigh. I watched as the two kissed and blushed. Dang it. Either I was wrong and that's not the Tyler that has a crush on me, or he's totally into me while having a girlfriend. I don't know which was worse. I tried to get all of this off my mind, but then lunch happened. I usually brought my own lunch, but today I was running late, remember, and I had to get a hot lunch. Standing in the lunch line, I was studying my phone. I wasn't looking at anything cool. Everyone I would have talked to was in school too. When I heard the voices from earlier, it was the boys from the bathroom. They were right behind me in line. I was about to turn around and see who Destiny had waiting for me. Now that I had a better vantage point, I could hear that it wasn't Tyler. I turned around to see Matt standing right behind me next to Drake. Matt is someone who was always on the outside of my friend group, but I never paid much attention to him because he was pretty shy and kept to himself. He was a wrestler, and he had some gorgeous blue eyes. As I looked closer at him in the lunch line, I realized that he looked a lot like Shawn Mendes. There's no way I wanted them to know what I was doing in there in the first place. Gross. So I put on my best flirty smile and gave Matt the eye. I turned back around and finished lunch as usual. I've known him for many years, but he's not someone I would have considered going out with. Even though he is cute, he's shorter than a lot of the guys I'm attracted to, and that's okay. Anyway, later on that day, when I was walking to my last class, Matt and Drake walked by in the hallway, and Drake nudged Matt. Hey, Lily, I heard from behind me. I turned around, and he was standing there. Drake was a few feet away pretending that he was trying to get into his locker, even though I knew his locker was way on the other side of the school. Hey, what's up, Matt? I asked, playing it cool. He coughed and came closer. So, I was wondering if you were doing anything this weekend? It was definitely Matt that was in the bathroom, I thought to myself. No, not at all. Why? What do you have up your sleeve? He got a huge smile on his face and asked me if he could take me to the movies. Of course, I said yes. The rest of the week went by super slow. All I wanted was to get to Saturday so I could see Matt. Throughout the school week, we kept flirting with each other in the hallways and talking in class, but we didn't have time to see each other outside of school. Finally, it was Saturday, the big day. I spent all day getting ready, putting on face masks, shaving my legs, putting lotions and creams all over my body. Then I slipped into one of my favorite floral dresses and a denim jacket. My phone jingled and I beamed when I read that Matt was outside my house. When I got in the car, his face was all smiles too. Hey, you look beautiful, he said. I couldn't help but blush. Thank you. You look handsome and you smell really good. Is that weird? So I was thinking there's supposed to be a meteor shower tonight. How would you feel about going to the park instead of the movies? Are you going to try and murder me? Or are you just cheap? I giggled. Matt smiled and nudged my shoulder. For real, I think this would be really cool. Okay, let's do it. We pulled up to the park and Matt got out of his car. He went to the back where he pulled a blanket, a basket, and some pillows out of his trunk. We made our way over to a patch of grass and he spread the blanket out. He pulled out a bottle of sparkling juice and 2 glasses from the basket. The cork was popped and we drank the bubbly along with some strawberries that he'd carefully cut up and put in a Tupperware container. It was the cutest thing I'd ever seen. For the next 2 hours, he mesmerized me with all of his wisdom about the sky and what's beyond our view. I don't know what came over me, but as he was telling me about the Big Dipper, I leaned over and kissed him. It didn't take him long to grab the back of my head and lean into the kiss, and we laid back against the pillows again. As the meteor shower flew overhead, we stared into each other's eyes. I'll never forget the way he made me feel that night, and I'm honestly so happy that I got trapped in the boys' bathroom. This was the most romantic first date I've ever been on. Things didn't end all that great for Matt and I, though. On our second date, I mentioned how I was in the bathroom, and I heard him talking to Drake about me. He gave me the weirdest look and finally said, "But Lily, I didn't tell Drake that I liked you." I didn't tell anyone that I liked you. I was confused. But I saw you in the bathroom the other day with Drake, and he asked you if you thought I was hot. The more I talked, the weirder it sounded. No, Lily, that wasn't me. Did you think I was the person in the bathroom and that's the only reason you went out with me? The hurt on his face was serious, and I felt my heart hit my feet. I did just go out with him because I thought he liked me. The date ended soon after that. He dropped me off at home, and I tried to text him several times. I think he finally blocked me. All of this was really upsetting, but I tried not to get too down about it because next weekend was prom. I was really excited to go, even though I wasn't going to have a date now. When prom day finally arrived, I dressed in a long, sparkly dress and the highest heels I could stand to walk in. My friends and I pulled up to the hotel where the prom was being held, and it was like a massive party erupted around the grounds. All of the seniors and juniors were dancing, relaxing, and drinking punch. I caught the eye of Tyler once or twice, who kept smiling shyly at me. Weird, I thought. He's not dancing with his girlfriend. Maybe they broke up. By the end of the night, everyone was having a great time, and the announcer came to the stage to tell everyone who was going to be the next prom king and prom queen. I knew that Tyler and his girlfriend were a shoo-in, so I waited in the back with my friends for the announcement. Then, just like in those cheesy teen movies, the announcer, who was our assistant principal, called Tyler to the stage to be crowned as the king. Soon after, my name was shouted as well. Lily, come on up. You have been voted prom queen. I could not believe my ears. I rushed up to the stage and the tiara was placed on my head. My smile was probably as bright as the moon. I was elated. Tyler came over and gave me a hug, and I swear I heard him whisper, I really like you. I couldn't move or speak. Had it been Tyler in the bathroom the whole time? We walked off the stage and we were congratulated by our friends. And then Tyler pulled me over to the corner and looked me in the eye. Lily, I can't hold it in any longer. I really like you. Will you dance with me? We danced the rest of the night, and we kissed when he took me home. It's been a couple of years since this happened, and Tyler and I are still together. What do you think about my story? Please like and subscribe to this channel to hear more.